Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. And I leaves the whole room like, no, it doesn't. 7 seconds.
I know, that looks awesome. I cannot wait for that. Did you watch the sessions yet?
I did. I watched the sessions.
I loved that one too.
That was beautiful, and it totally defeats my line because I have this line, right? It's my kind of go-to line right now. Is I do something where I say something about Helen Hunt movies. And it's always kind of a joke,
Uh-huh.
Like, say something completely random and maybe a little bit off color. Go ahead.
I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, that was great. It was a Helen Hunt movie. You see what I mean? Like if yours had been better, then I don't know what that is. My witty Helen Hunt retort would have been funny, and it works. Like when you're riffing, it works.
It would have been. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, I'm just saying. Now that I've seen the sessions, all bets are off on my new line, because that looks like a wonderful film, and she plays as far as I can tell, a sex surrogate, surrogate, and that trumps anything that I could say about Helen Hunt movies from now on. So I need to find a new actress or actor about it. I'm thinking maybe Holly Hunter may replace Helen Hunt.
Holly Hunter.
Yeah.
What was the thing?
Because it's a thing with broadcast. It's a broadcast news thing, because every relationship you're either a William Hurt or a Holly Hunter. Which are you in your relationship with your wife? Are you William Hurt or Holly Hunter?
What about Albert Brooks?
or Albert Brooks? As long as we're going alternative lifestyle, who are you? I think you're the Albert Brooks, because your wife is definitely the Holly Hunter.
Yes,
in your relationship. As is mine. I'm the William Hurt. I'm the kind of empty suit. But I always did well on camera. Not a lot behind the ears. Between the ears. See what I mean?
Or behind.
There's a lot behind the ears, because she's usually standing right behind me. God, it's too bad she doesn't listen to the show, because that was a terrific compliment.
It would have been good to hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we rolling yet or no?
Oh yeah, we've been rolling since the very beginning.
Have we really?
Yeah. You caught me in the middle of watching Seven Psychopaths, and that is, let me just tell you, I was a big fan of In Bruges. That movie totally surprised me. It was not what I thought it was going to be. The trailer totally screwed up that movie. Don't you think? That's one of those movies where the trailer messed it up.
I don't think I saw the trailer for that, actually.
You should not see it now, because it would mess it up.
I saw it because I saw the short film that the director won an Academy Award for, and I saw that short film, and I'm like, God, that was great. It was on like a compilation of Oscar-winning shorts or something, and so I tracked down In Bruges and watched it, and I loved it.
Yeah, God, it was fantastic. And that was Colin Farrell with his actual accent, I think. Right?
Yeah, which rarely happens.
Rarely
it looks like it's happening again in Bruges. In Seven Psychopaths.
That was going to be my comment. And also William H. Macy with his natural accent, as far as we know.
Macy? What's his natural accent?
Exactly what he sounds like all the time. It was pioneered in Jurassic Park 4, 5, 3. I really look forward to this movie. And let me tell you, the other one, the guy who's on my list is, first of all, Tom Waits. I mean, come on. But Sam Rockwell. I
mean, you can't go wrong. You got Colin Farrell, Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson,
Christopher Walken,
Tom Waits, Abby Cornish, and then you've got your Bond girl, which they conveniently point out, Olga Kurylenko.
Yes.
Is it Kurylenko?
Kurylenko. And Jelko Ivanek.
Yes, let's not forget.
Who is awesome. Always awesome.
The star of The Bourne Ultimatum. I mean, which one was it? The Bourne Legacy.
I can't wait for this movie. Writer's Martin McDonagh. He's just a writer-director. Martin McDonagh looks fantastic. So see this movie. And the other one, The Sessions, is let's see. Who is that? Talk about that.
Hawkes.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of him. I ran into him at out in LA at one point, and we chatted, and I mean, he's just a great guy. He's so down to earth, and he's just fantastic. And just seeing him getting bigger and bigger roles and Oscar nominations and everything, I mean, God, it's just fantastic to see. So I'm very excited for The Sessions.
I wonder what he's saying about you right now.
Yeah.
Andy Nelson. Sure I totally ran into him. Yeah. I ran into him
except for the Oscar nomination. Everything else.
That's fantastic. All right. So those are great. Let's see. Have you seen Dread yet? Have you? I know you were going to rush out to see that.
Dread.
No. Okay. Well, I thought that was one. Let's see. It was. I think The Master. Have you seen The Master yet?
That's what I saw.
Tell me what you thought of it.
I enjoyed it.
I've heard really good things about this movie from people I like.
They're probably right.
This is what I'm saying.
It's a good movie. It's really well made. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson's really come into his own over the last few years, barring Punch Drunk Love. I think it was made well. I just really have a hard time watching that movie, and I hope to never see it again, ever. But the rest of them,
really?
Great. And I think he really knows how to put a film together, and the film work in The Master is stellar. The story, the characters, particularly Joaquin Phoenix, who is just way out there. I mean, it's almost, what was that movie that he did where he was like playing, it was like a pseudo documentary. Was that I'm Not Here? Is that what that was?
Yeah, with the beard. He did the beard. And
he was like that alternate person or whatever. It seemed like he did all that in preparation for like this role or something, because he was so crazy, and he was great. I mean, fantastic. I just loved it. It was a great movie. I'd like to see it again, and then I think I would have to take a break from it for a while because it's just an intense movie.
Well, I can't wait to see it, and I've heard like I said, I've heard the same thing. I haven't seen anything this week other than The Avengers, which came out on video on Tuesday, and my kids made me rush
on video. Did it come out on video?
Yeah, it's out.
You got the VHS?
I did. I got the VHS beta. I got the beta, and I had to break out the old top loader.
I was going to pick it up on Laserdisc.
It's on 7 Laserdiscs. Flip every 6.5 minutes. Yes. No, I like that movie just as much. It's a great superhero flick. We had an Avengers party on Tuesday night. I'm not kidding. We had nachos with crab meat on them.
That sounds so gross.
Oh, so good. No. It's crab meat on the chips, on the Juanitas. Got to get the Juanitas. The best restaurant. Oh my gosh! You put the crab meat on them, and then the cheese and a little paprika, and a squeeze of lime. I'm serious. I have just given you people a gift of my heart, courtesy of Peter Hopmeyer, Colorado Springs, Colorado, circa 1988. That's when I learned this.
Tell you what, next time you come visit, or next time I come visit, you make it for me, and I'll see what I think.
I'm gonna blow your mind.
I'm prepared.
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's going to happen. It's going to get real. Do we have any other trailers to talk about? You know what? I think at this point we have an announcement, which is we're doing another film board.
Yes,
and it may at this point
that we're doing that.
It may just be us.
Saturday night, right?
Yeah, it may just be us because I haven't actually sent the notice out to the boys, but I think they know. I hope they know because we've talked about it before.
Yeah, we mentioned it last time that we were doing Looper, so hopefully they were paying attention.
Yes. Looking forward to this movie. It's with Joshua Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph,
and
Joshua.
He has
it could be, maybe he goes by Joshua.
I thought, well, he doesn't in my head. I need him to be now, but I don't have enough Joshuas in my life, so I just rename other people. And you are Kevin.
I'm Kevin.
So Joseph
way
Gordon-Levitt.
Too many Andys.
Right.
All those British cops.
So Joseph is in this film, and he has the bad Botox problem.
It's not Botox; it's a nose job. He went to the wrong surgeon.
Cannot wait to see this movie, and I hope I can get over that bit. This is going to be great, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So that's going to be live on the Google Hangout on Saturday night, 8:00. And
that's 8:00
Pacific.
What time would that be? Pacific time?
Pacific time, yes. Pacific time. That's it for announcements.
Fantastic.
Look at how fast we just blew through that.
So did you get my email earlier? Do you want to talk about the third dimension?
So, yeah, what do you...
third dimension.
Tell me...
Can you put an echo effect on that?
I can.
I think it would really sell it.
I can do that. I'm going to try that. Do it again. Just do it again. I might cut it in.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
The third dimension. There you go.
Okay, all right, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was reading an article about 3D re-releases and how there haven't been very many, and because people talk about them all the time, I have been thinking there have been more of them, but really there have been very few. It started in 2009 with the Toy Story 2 double feature, which came out right before, or like half a year before Toy Story 3. And then Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, The Phantom Menace, Titanic, and Finding Nemo. So there's only been 7 movies that have come out as a re-release from a 2D film into 3D. And they've kind of made some money, but not since Lion King, which was the second one, if you count Toy Story 2 as one, since it was a double feature. They have not been making that much money. And Finding Nemo, which came out 3D, and it's supposed to be great. I mean, gorgeous 3D, but it's not making a lot of money. And, all these studios have been kind of looking at 3D as a way to get more people to see the film and prepare them for a sequel. But I think they're actually starting to worry now because it's not really working very well. At least with Finding Nemo. So, I think we're going to be seeing over the next year or so, as they continue these 3D re-releases, we'll just see how it does. Because I think coming up at the end of the year, Monsters, Inc. is the next one being re-released in 3D.
And that's because it's getting ready for the prequel, right? That's
right. They're preparing that one for the Monsters University, which is the next Pixar movie coming out next summer.
Ugh.
And then you've got, let's see, I'm going down the list of 3D. It's amazing how many 3D movies are coming out over the next couple of years. The next one is Jurassic Park, coming out in April 2013. And they're not saying it's because they're planning another Jurassic Park movie, but there is talks of another Jurassic Park movie.
Ugh.
And then let's see, then we have Independence Day being re-released in 3D in July because they're talking about doing a second Independence Day. And then The Little Mermaid coming at next September, so a year from now. And then Star Wars Episode 2 and Episode 3. And then I think, through 2013, that looks like it as far as re-releases. So it's interesting to see where they go from here and if they're going to keep doing this, because I just don't know if re-releasing a movie that's already been out in 2D just as 3D just to help boost ticket sales for a sequel. I just don't think it's going to work.
Well, what is your experience with it? I mean, what are the 3D movies? Because here we are, you and we're moviegoers. We are goers who actually spend cash at the movie theater, right? We are. Sure. A prime target audience because we like we're the crossover audience, the perfect audience for the Star Wars and the Pixar. We should be perfect target for this. Have you seen any of them in 3D?
I saw Toy Story 2. I took Olivia to that double feature. I saw The Lion King, and I thought Lion King was horrible. I mean, it's a great movie, but I thought the picture was really dark. My daughter actually really doesn't like 3D, and inevitably she takes the glasses off halfway through the movie and just watches the rest of it without it. So I kind of have given up. And then I did try taking her to The Phantom Menace, and she fell asleep halfway through. So, I think I've given up on going to re-releases.
I don't know that The Phantom Menace is an appropriate gauge. I fall asleep during that one just anyway.
Who doesn't?
Right. 3D is not enough. So I have not seen. I saw Phantom Menace 3D. I took my kids to that, and they didn't fall asleep, but they weren't crazy about it. But again, because it was that. But see, those movies, I wonder. If they are at the mercy of these compressed release cycles, because in particular, we're seeing. Well, I don't know. These movies been out for a long time, but my kids have seen them so many times that 3D is not a lure. Really, the convenience of being able to turn on the TV and dial them up, that's the lure. When they want to watch Finding Nemo, they don't, the theater isn't that big of a deal. The theater's for stuff they've never seen. And even then, it's got to be a pretty special movie for my 10-year-old is circumspect about 3D.
Yeah.
It's got to be a pretty special movie to want to see it in 3D. She doesn't like the glasses either. She thinks it's annoying.
Yeah, they are. Especially for kids who never wear glasses.
But see, that's the
To
question.
wear 2 hours.
That's the question. And if not 3D, then what? What makes the movie-going experience better? Because we don't have, we've got the Century Cinema fancy pants place with the, Starbucks in the lobby, but I'm not sure that Starbucks is making the film-going experience any better for me. What is it if it's not 3D that gets you to pay a little more at the theater?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I love seeing movies in theaters. If I had the opportunity, I would see most anything I watched in a theater because it's just such a better environment for it. That's, I think, the benefit for people who live in big film communities like New York, LA, a few other specialty places like Chicago.
North
Some
Phoenix.
places have those specialty theaters where they will have like a limited run for a week where you can go watch Citizen Kane, or you can go watch Lawrence of Arabia, or things like that, which I would die for. I would love to go see those movies that were made for the big screen on the big screen again.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, I mean, I love Toy Story, Toy Story 2. I love all these movies that have been released in 3D except for Star Wars Episode 1. But the fact that they're 3D is not going to appeal to me, and it's not a special release. It's a release until people aren't coming anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I don't know. I'm hard pressed to buy into it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it does. I'm not excited about it.
Especially
I'm not excited. I haven't
if they
seen
start only doing it because they're trying to tie it into pushing more money for a sequel.
Yep. Absolutely. Now, I'm trying to think of what I would rush out and see, and I was going to say something like The Abyss. If they gave The Abyss a fantastic 3D treatment, I might go to see that. But see, I would have said the same thing about Titanic. I didn't go see Titanic 3D.
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the thing. I would say that, but then the reality comes and it's like, well, okay, that's however long Titanic was, 3 hours.
14 minutes. 3 hours and 14
long.
minutes, yeah.
Probably not going to go see that.
Yeah. Huh. All right.
So I'm going to be very curious to see how this 3D calendar changes from 2013, which had, I don't remember how many I said, like, maybe 4 or 5. Well, it was between now and the end of 2013. There's Monsters, Inc., Jurassic Park, Independence Day, Little Mermaid, Star Wars 2, Star Wars 3. So there's 5 movies being redone into 3D between now and the end of 2013. I'm curious to see what happens in 2014. Right now, there's none scheduled.
None scheduled. Well, okay. So, what do you know about the
3D
conversion
movies,
process?
But there's none that are re-releases.
Right. So, what do you know about the conversion process? Like when you take out, you crack open Little Mermaid. What does it take to make that movie 3D? Can you talk about that? Are you equipped to talk about that?
I'm not equipped to talk. I mean, for any of the Pixar movies or any movie where it's doing CG, I think it's probably a lot easier because they can go back into have everything created in 3 dimensions. So all they need to do is modify it. And that's why I was really excited to actually see Toy Story and Toy Story 2 in 3D, because they actually went back into the original files and they actually just basically created a second version of the movie, but just from that other angle, from that other camera position, so that you had true 3D with that. And that's why I am curious to see Finding Nemo, but still I'm not champing at the bit to run out and spend $10 on it. Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, that's cell animation. Honestly, I have no idea how they do that cell animation in 3 dimensions. I don't know. I think it's a lot like what they do when they're doing a 3D conversion on something like Clash of the Titans, which was a horrible 3D conversion where they actually kind of just rotoscope different images out of the image and they put them on different levels so that you have kind of that 3-dimensional feel. I thought Lion King, actually, the 3-dimensionality of it looked pretty good. It's just I felt the picture was so dark. It was just hard to see.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I haven't been sufficiently moved, so I'm not. I'm not a good, or maybe I'm the perfect critic. None of them have really wowed me.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? This is okay. Here's an interesting thing, and then I'll shut up. The Phantom Menace, for me, speaking again, personal experience, and on behalf of my children, actually did more damage to my expectation of the next 2 3D releases in the franchise. That I'm not as excited about going to see those. So there we are. I mean, we're making a case, sort of weird case that 3D re-releases aren't that great, and I now want to see the next 3D re-release even less as a result of the first one.
Well, here's a question. Are you going to go see episodes 4, 5, and 6 when they're released in 3D?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Well, there you go.
But for the novelty of it, you know what I mean? Like, that's the... here's a funny little thing. So my uncle Tim, God, love that guy. He's the guy who took me to see Star Wars for the first time when I was a kid. He's been all over TV in Oklahoma because he was on a dragon boat race in Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, because he was on a dragon boat race for some charity thing.
As opposed to a dragon race.
Yeah, well, he was not racing a dragon, but he did have a coronary heart attack that led to a 6-way bypass. You believe that?
Oh my goodness!
And the dude's fine. So wow. God love those medical people. I mean, he was absolutely just crawled upon with a fire and rescue. I mean, if you're going to have a massive coronary event, this was the charity event is the place to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of when I think of Star Wars. I think of heart attacks, and so glad that shout out to Uncle Tim that he's doing all right.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah, and here's to Star Wars.
Here's 4. The Star Wars.
Yeah. All right. I got enough of that. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we jump into our final film in this series? I can't believe it. It feels like we've been doing this for months.
Right.
Yes, we have.
It's been a great 2 months. It's been a great 2 months exploring the films of Richard D. Zanuck.
It really has. It really has. We've come a long way with Dick. And this is tonight we're going to be talking about the fantastic 2007 Sweeney Todd, Tim Burton film starring Johnny Depp, and my favorite.
I love it. I love it.
Helena Bonham Carter.
Here's a question.
Yes, please.
Did you know that the story of Sweeney Todd has been around for a long time, like well over 100 years?
Oh, let me tell you, I did not know that until starting to look at this. I did not know that it is based on potentially a real guy.
Right.
That's dark, man.
That's crazy. It is crazy.
Is crazy.
The good old days of bloody old England.
Man, bloody England has their... I mean, Jack the Ripper, now Sweeney Todd. Yeah. This is Angela Lansbury. These people are dark.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are.
This is why do you like this movie? Tell me why you like this movie.
It's a great story. I find the story so dark, and just this horrible story about revenge and how it really gets you nowhere except dead. It's just, I mean, it's this gruesome, bloody story done in this style that really relishes in that, style. It's kind of that grand guignol style of just like, putting it all out there, all this horror and blood, and just, you're not cutting away as all these throats are getting slashed, and it's gruesome, and everyone's singing about it, and it's just so dark and amusing that I just love it. And I don't know if it's Stephen Sondheim and how his based on the musical that he had done with Hugh Wheeler. I don't know if it's that, or the way that John Logan did the script, or the way Tim Burton did it, or Johnny Depp performing it, or all of it. It's just everything comes together. This is the film for me where every piece of it, except for one thing that I'll talk about later, comes together so perfectly that it's like, this is for me the Tim Burton film.
I think it is too, and I think in many respects this for me is it cements kind of that pattern of power adjustment that we started talking about in the very beginning, particularly the Zanuck series. It's this idea where, I mean, this is the movie where it's a film that most blatantly deals with the transfer of power, sort of the dark sort of transfer of power in a classist society, right? I mean, this film, it starts as a revenge movie. It starts where, Sweeney Todd, he comes back to get revenge against the evil judge who has separated him from his wife
and daughter.
And so he comes back to get revenge on this judge. But what happens right around the middle of the film is through his rage and the sort of tapping on the shoulder of his sort of dark siren, Helena Bonham Carter, Mrs. Lovett, it becomes a film about this just sort of blatant killing of the aristocracy.
Yeah.
And I love the way, I mean, this is a movie for the 99% or the disenfranchised 47%, I mean, that's where we are with this film is, these are the people who have said, and the way they characterize it is so brilliant too, because, the song in the middle of, where it talks about how, this is where those up above will finally serve those below. Mm-hmm. And, as
his
their
Epiphany song, right?
The Epiphany song, exactly. And they're serving that when the pies, as they're making the aristocrats into meat pies, the pies take off, and Helena Bonham Carter's character, Mrs. Lovett, is now singing about how wonderful it is that they're selecting these aristocrats who won't be missed. Like they have now genericized the wealthy class, the aristocratic class, as to to the point of there are so many of them, they won't be missed. Let's eat them up. It's just it is, not to coin a phrase, it's delicious. It is absolutely delicious.
That was a good one, though.
Well, it was good, right? Yeah, no,
it's absolutely
good.
delicious.
I'm going to put an echo on that too.
So it's a great dark story, and tying all of that together so well within the story. Now, I haven't seen the musical. Have you seen the musical?
Yeah, I have, but it wasn't like this. It was in high school.
Wow. That was probably a different version.
It was not. It was not as bloody, and that was actually my question for you. That's, I think, is the sort of central question. And I also have not seen when was it, the 1984, the Angela Lansbury version of it, because she was in the original Broadway. She was in the
original 1979
and then it was in the
version of the show.
There was another movie of it.
There's been quite a few movies of it, actually, which surprised me.
But with her
a lot. The first movie was a silent film in 1926 that's been lost. Then they made another version in 1928 that is the oldest surviving adaptation of it.
Huh.
And then there's a 1936 version. There's a ballet done of it in 1959.
Right.
There is a TV production done of it in 1973. Now, these are obviously not the musical version of it. In 1979 is when Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler had their version come out with Len Cariou starring as Sweeney Todd and Angela Lansbury as Mrs. Lovett. And then you had a 1998 version. That's the one you're thinking of, probably, that John Schlesinger directed, that has Ben Kingsley in it.
Maybe.
Either that one, or there was a version that came out just before this one, 2006, with Ray Winstone playing Sweeney Todd.
I'm going crazy. I felt like there was something in 1984, but I can't find it anymore. So anyhow, well, I'll let that go. But the real question is, the question that started that whole thing. What do you think? What do you think the just sheer gore that Tim Burton elected to kind of show in the film version of the 2007 film version? What do you think that gore does to the telling of the story? Why do you think he went as gory as he did, with no cutaways at all? I mean, we've got brains just splashing all over the concrete in the basement. We've got very slow knife passes across the throat. What does that mean? What was his motivation there?
It's artful.
That's where
it's artfully done, and I think that. What he says is he was doing it in that grand guignol style of the, that Parisian theater back in I don't remember when it was, the turn of the century, that really did all of these shows that were very, at the time, seemed very gory, and they called it naturalistic, and things were happening, and they were depicting it as it would really happen if somebody stuck a stake in somebody's eye, or somebody, you know, slit somebody's throat. They showed all of that on stage, and you're not cutting away. The audience is trapped sitting there watching this happen as somebody bleeds out and all their blood pours out everywhere, and the actors on stage are just acting it all out. And that's how this theater worked. And it kind of went under, I think, during one of the world wars, because people stopped going because they realized there were already so many other horrors in the world that they could see. It was like, we don't need to go see it here. They're everywhere now. But Tim Burton wanted to capture that kind of style of that naturalistic reality of what happens with this bloodiness of things. And I think that's why he doesn't cut away. Like when we're seeing the throats slashing, we're seeing the bodies hitting that concrete. He really wanted to do that because it just lends for this. I mean, it's a dark, bloody tale, and he's really putting us into the middle of it. And then the fact that they're all singing about it really twists it into a totally different way. So, I mean, I think what he's trying to do is just, you know, with the music, because the music already kind of creates this unreality. Nobody walks around singing, you know. And so I think what he's doing is he's putting the reality back in by forcing us to watch the gore.
Okay, I'll buy that. I'll go with that. I think it's a good. I like the stylistic choice. I find it. It's funny because in terms of Tim Burton's style, there's so much in this film that really screams style, with the bold black and white stripes and the really bizarre sort of clownish makeup, the deep dark hollows in the eyes that never quite get. I mean, it's that Beetlejuice sort of eye treatment that never quite goes away, even as they're on the beach. You know, we actually see some color and some light, that was an interesting. I find that an interesting contrast because for the vast majority of the film, we're in the dark. It is a very dark, just atmospherically a very dark performance, and then and it's the characters that sort of, particularly Johnny Depp, who just has this horrific glee, and he sort of lights up and brings color to the stage to the screen as soon as he starts killing people. And their killing, which becomes sort of aristocratically indiscriminate. And then we have the dream scene, which actually introduces real color and real sort of natural reds, not the sort of black blood red, and some natural blues, not the nightmarish shadow. But it was it's the fact that then Johnny Depp's character actually then somehow becomes this vortex and sucks all the life out of even the most colorful scenes. And I find that such an interesting kind of a style choice, and so at once as it feels like this is so not a Tim Burton film, not a it is so much stylistically right in his wheelhouse. It feels so natural.
Yeah. It does. I mean, it's a perfect film for him to make, and I think he's lucky that he's working with such great material that it turns into, for me, his best film. And you're right about Johnny Depp and how he moves through it, and the colors and how they change. And what's interesting, actually, is how real everything appears in the film when it's dark and through the whole story, except for that kind of fantasy dream sequence that when Mrs. Lovett is singing about being down by the sea, and how colorful it becomes, yet how fake everything becomes.
Yes,
right? It all feels like all of a sudden they're on a set.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is a fantastic way to put the color in, but not allow it to be real.
Right. I absolutely agree. Now, speaking of Johnny Depp, I know this was he was the risk, I think, on this film. This was his first musical. He had done Crybaby, but lip synced on that one, and so this was the first one where he would actually be singing, and it was a risk to get him to sing what is by all rights an extraordinarily complex vocal part.
anything with Sondheim is crazy hard. I saw now granted it was a high school production, but it was Into the Woods, and I mean, Sondheim is so challenging to sing. The way that he writes and the timing of everything, and I mean, the kids were hardly paying attention to each other. They were so focused on the conductor's baton, watching for the beats to make sure that they started and stopped at the right times, because it's such a complex thing to sing. So yeah, coming into a Stephen Sondheim work for Johnny Depp, who's never sung before, I mean, it was a hard thing.
I think, Into the Woods was a good 10, 11 years after Sweeney Todd. And in many respects, I think Sondheim mellowed over the years. I mean, Sweeney Todd is it's just sort of A-list complex musical theater, and the demands on just pitch perfect accuracy for this thing are really they're very high, and so I think I think old Johnny Depp nailed it.
The thing that I like about it, because I've seen some reviews on his voice in particular, because of that concern.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether people thought he sang I think everybody kind of agreed that he hit the notes and everything. And regardless of what they thought of the performance, most of which I think were all positive, they all said even if he doesn't sound like somebody who is meant to be singing, he brings so much character to that, and he hits the notes, and he brings that character to life through the singing, and it really was amazing. And it's because you can hear almost like this like he's ready to explode, like right behind his voice. There's just this edge to it all the way through that is, I mean, it feels dangerous when he sings.
Yes. Oh no, I think that's absolutely true. I think that what the grit that he brings to that performance is that same sort of what I like so much about it is the grit that comes to his dramatic performances is absolutely characterized in his voice. And okay, so and the example, the counter example would be the boy. What's his name? Anthony.
Oh, Anthony, right?
Anthony, the young boy. The helper, the meat pie.
The newcomer. No, that's Toby.
Toby. Okay.
Anthony
is the blonde
guy.
With
him on the
yeah,
ship.
Yeah, that's right. All right. I get them all confused. The funny accents. So Toby is the example when he is singing "No Harm Will Come to You, Ma'am."
Yeah, nothing's going to harm you. Right?
Nothing's going to harm you, right? That is a great example of a kid who has a different voice than a character. You know what I mean? Like he is an angelic, sweet voice, and you can tell he's obviously he's a young actor and will mature into that. But I think what Johnny Depp brings to this horror protagonist is that sort of. That same sort of vocal range that he has as an absolutely as an actor of the ages. And this is I feel like as much of a risk as this was, I sure would like to see him do more risky stuff like this. Like this was I don't know how many more Sweeney Todds there are out there, but this was perfect.
Yeah, it was a perfect fit, and that's why I think that it was so right, and the film feels so solid, because it was such a perfect fit for him, for Tim Burton, everybody who came on board and worked on this. It fit like a glove, and they all feel like they're in the spot where they're meant to be for this film.
Do you know I believe he's still in the Guinness Book of World Records, right? He's the highest paid actor.
Is he?
Yeah, 75 million.
For
that's what I'm trying to figure out. That's
a chunk of dough.
Made. That is a chunk.
He could afford to grab a referee during a football game,
right?
There's a barb.
Crazy. Anyway, so maybe it was. Was it?
Here we go. He has been listed in the 2012 Guinness Book of World Records as the highest paid actor with 75 million.
But what was it for? Pirates? One of the Pirates movies? Or
that would be my guess.
Public Enemies?
Yeah. Justin Bieber's in the Guinness Book of World Records.
The thing about Johnny Depp though is what that I find interesting is it's just this I mean, he just has this history of fantastic films, from, you know, his terrific role as Glenn Lance in 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street. Huh? Remember that?
There you go.
But gosh, it was the Dark Shadows. What's up with that? Have you seen that?
What's that?
That's out, right? Dark Shadows?
I'm sorry, I lost you there for a second.
No. Dark Shadows.
Yeah, what about Dark Shadows?
Same makeup, dumber movie.
Right. I commented on one of the posters for Sweeney Todd that I put into our the Pinterest, the movies we like Pinterest folder, whatever it's called.
Right.
There's a poster in there. I'm just like, this poster could equally work just as well for Dark Shadows. It really could.
That is very true. It's going to be, it's interesting. I have not seen the movie, and I'll probably rent it just to feel like I've done something. The one and I'll just say anecdotally, the one I'm most interested in though, coming up is, and I don't know if I should be, but Johnny Depp is going to be Tonto in the upcoming Lone Ranger.
Boy, considering all the problems with that one.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm curious to see it, but I tell you, man, it's just having a heck of a time.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
Man, Armie Hammer.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. It will be interesting to see how that turns out. I don't know what to say about that one, because all I hear are production problems.
Well, and what was it? I mean, you're the production guy. Is it all just budget? Is it? I mean,
the budget's just been skyrocketing, and
it's Gorver. Like they didn't know
the production for a while to rework some of the script because they were concerned with where it was going and buys and everything, and they needed to figure out how they could stop the overages.
Okay, let's just, I know we're not talking about this movie, but I just want to get this out there. What is it about a cowboy movie that has to cost that much, right? What is it?
If you're paying Johnny Depp $75 million, there's your first chunk of money out the door.
But this was a loaded question. This was a loaded question because you know what I was thinking was the Wild Wild West. That's a problem.
Where you end up.
It's where you take a cowboy movie and you introduce a giant robotic bug.
Yeah,
that's what I worry. That's what I worry about with Gore Verbinski behind Lone Ranger. All right, so back to this movie. Helena Bonham Carter.
She's fantastic. The moment when she and Toby are singing that song toward the end, there's so much heartbreak in that moment, and her performance there, it breaks your heart as she realizes that she's going to have to kill the child. Oh, it sounds so terrible, but but she does it so well. She does it well.
Starts by, this is right before she locks him in the basement,
right?
And makes him eat allows him to eat the pies with the fingers in it.
Yes,
that's exactly. not a good moment for him.
She's not a good mother figure.
Well, do you know what? Her heart's in the right place. She just makes poor choices.
Right.
She's a reality TV show.
It's like Honey Boo Boo Child's mother.
It's Honey Boo Boo Child.
Except she grinds people in her giant meat grinder and turns them into meat pies. Other than that, they're the same person.
Exactly. I think she did a fantastic job, and that bit at the end, when they're dancing about living life and living life to its highest right before he tosses her into the flaming abyss of their meat oven, their pie oven, is a really special moment in cinema.
The thing I love about Helena Bonham Carter that I've always loved is how she can go from crazy, wacky Tim Burton sort of lady to like a completely serious, top notch. And I think the perfect example of that is when she was making King's Speech. She was shooting that during the week. And then on the weekends, she would go over to the other stage and she would put on her Bellatrix outfit for Harry Potter Part 7. And she would shoot that over the weekend. And then she'd go back and play the Queen.
Oh.
It's like she does that so well. And she can play those types of people in both ways so well. And I've always loved her ever since. Wow, what was that movie that she was in ages ago?
A Room with a View. Ian Forster.
Room with a View. Thank you. That was the first time I saw her, and I've kind of had a little crush on her ever since.
No. I actually had the crush on her first before that, and that's what she actually got me reading the classics.
Oh,
because I was so in love with her, I had to read. That's when I started reading books with accents.
And you know what? She's also in The Lone Ranger.
I know. I have a problem with that too. Wild Wild West. Bow, chicka, bow, chicka, bow, Wild Wild West. She was terrific, and as ever. And I think what is this? I think at this point, did you watch her boobs?
I didn't.
I didn't either, but it makes me
focused on the fact that she was grinding people into meat pies.
No. You're supposed to watch her boobs.
I'm sorry.
You know why? I
failed as a film critic.
Is that crass of me to say that? No, and I need to say that out loud because
is that because she was pregnant?
Because she was pregnant, and the movie was shot out of order, and she is on the record as saying that her chest changed sizes throughout the film. Like, depending on what, like, they start one size, then they get smaller, then they get bigger, then they get smaller, and then they get really big.
So Tim Burton could have taken lessons from David Fincher when he dealt with Jodie Foster on Panic Room.
Yes. Yes, he could have. Yes.
Instead, we've got the ever-changing breast size.
We do. We have the ever-changing breast size. And I didn't discover that until after, so that means I'm going to have to watch the movie again.
Oh, you poor guy. I'm gonna have to too. This, it's good that we have homework that we've got to just get through.
Exactly. Yeah. And finally, Alan Rickman.
Finally,
yeah,
he's not final.
He's the
talk about other people too.
We are, but he's of the big three. I wanted to talk about the big three because, I want to talk about the big three.
Alan Rickman. Okay, there's two things that he says in this film that to me are they just feel like they're carrying so much Alan Rickman weight to them that I love him all the more just because he's in it. And the first time is when he sees Anthony looking up through the window at Joanna, his ward, who is Sweeney Todd's daughter. And he approaches him and he's like, "You gandered at my ward." And just, "No, I saw you gandered at her." And the way he says that.
Yeah.
Just so perfect Alan Rickman. And I wish I could do a good Alan Rickman because I really can't. And then the other one is when he comes into to get a shave, and I can't remember what he says, but he's got that pause. The way that he always has kind of a pause mid-word in his delivery. I'm gonna have to figure out. To me it was there's some line where somebody says, I think something such and such, and Alan Rickman turns around and says, "I think not." Yes, the way that he does that is just so perfect. There, no doubt, it is absolutely perfect, and it is. He's one of those that it's the Hans Gruber problem, right? It is, really.
And it's funny because he's had so many really just perfectly crafted roles. He's executed these just wonderful roles since then. A lot of roles. He's been a very busy actor, and yet those are the ones that just scream Hans Gruber, and that's where I found my nemesis crush. My nemesis crush on Hans Gruber. But he also, as much as I didn't like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, his Sheriff of Nottingham was fantastic. Mm-hmm. With a spoon, because it'll hurt more. It was great.
My films that I just absolutely love him in are Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
and
Yes.
and it's really a minor role, but I just love what he brought to it in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
I was going to
as
say
the
the
voice
same
of
thing.
Marvin the robot. He brought so much just pathetic depression to that character. It's so
Totally.
good.
But I want to highlight a role for him that if you haven't seen it, it is a terrific film of a very different tone. It's 1991, Truly, Madly, Deeply. Have you seen this movie?
I have, and I had a hard time watching it because of his wife's voice. She kind of has this it's like she's swallowed something and she talks funny. So, but he's great in it.
He is great in that. He is really great in that. And I think it's one of those films that it's just a very sweet film, and he gets to play somebody who's not trying to hijack a building or make things hard on a wee wizard. It's a very different role. It's worth seeing.
And I agree. I really do agree. I just have a hard time with that woman.
Yeah.
But also, I think Sense and Sensibility is a great role for him in Ang Lee's version with Emma Watson.
Absolutely.
Not Emma Watson.
No.
the other
Emma.
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson. Yeah.
That would have been a little more of an awkward film.
That was the Kate Winslet, Hugh Grant,
and Emma Watson.
1995.
And
It's fantastic. He's great. He is really great. He just is fantastic. And there is that moment when, back to this film, when he is in the chair for the second time and Sweeney is about to come clean and he is holding his right hand back behind him, and he starts singing about how his the years have changed him and there is that look, that Alan Rickman look of just sort of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sweeney Todd begins hacking away at his neck.
Yep.
What is
spoiler
up
alert?
With that? Man. I think you've got a wee
a nice slash across the throat, but boy, he just digs right in, doesn't he?
Gouging and twisting, and like there's something in there, treasure. And it was just really grotesque. And you notice how there's this thing, Sweeney Todd, whenever he's doing this, when the blood is splashing on his face, he never closes his mouth. Do you notice that? Always the blood on his teeth.
Yeah.
I found a hard time with that. What would this movie have been like if Sam Mendes had directed it?
Boy, I don't know if it would have been what it needed to be. I'm glad that fell through. He had been wanting to direct this for years, and it was just not coming through. And finally, he left, and I think for the better, because I like Sam Mendes, but I don't always like his films, and I don't know if he. I mean, honestly, I have no idea what he would have brought to the table, but I think this is a film that Tim Burton was just absolutely the right man for.
I've been trying to think about that, because I was surprised myself that I had seen most of Sam Mendes' films, because he's not one of those directors that I connect with the work like inseparably. American Beauty, Road to Perdition, Jarhead, which I think was terrific. I'm not sure if it was necessarily because of some intrinsic Sam Mendes feel, but Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job.
Yeah.
Revolutionary Road. I just don't feel it. This film doesn't feel like a Sam Mendes movie. I'm so glad that things ended up working that way.
Well, and I'm curious how Skyfall works with him behind the helm.
Yeah.
I think he can bring it to it. I mean, he can. I think it could work with him directing. If he had directed Sweeney Todd, I mean, I thought he did a great job with Road to Perdition. I think he can do it, but yeah, I really don't think that he was the right guy for doing this. And I know he comes from the theater. He has a very much of that kind of theatrical understanding. So I don't think he's directed this, but I think he probably could understand it very well and probably could bring a lot to it. I'm just glad that he didn't.
Yeah, no, this was, I think you're right though. I mean, this is one of those in hindsight that just, it just screams, screams Tim Burton. Interestingly, I do see here on his Wikipedia page, Mendez is starting pre-production of a film adaptation of the 1971 Tony-winning Broadway musical Follies.
Another Sondheim.
Yeah, exactly. And so, maybe he didn't quite get his Sondheim out.
Apparently not.
He needs to work out his Sondheim.
Huh.
Sometimes I have to work out my Sondheim too.
I've only seen of Sondheim's work. I think I've only seen, I guess this is confusing because other major works. I mean, I've seen West Side Story. I've seen If Anything Happened on the Way to the Forum. Sweeney Todd. Into the Woods. That's it.
Mm. Yeah.
And of those, I think I've only seen... Oh, no, I guess I saw Funny Thing Happen on the Way to the Forum on stage and Into the Woods on stage. The rest have just been only film versions. West Side Story and Sweeney Todd.
Gypsy? You haven't seen...
I've never seen Gypsy. And the stage version I did see of Sweeney Todd was the scene that they did in that terrible Kevin Smith movie, Jersey Girl.
Mm.
That's the only bit of Sweeney Todd I've seen on stage. I don't know if that really counts.
Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not.
So how'd this movie do?
Well,
in ye old box office.
It did okay. Not as good as... This was a tricky movie. Let me jump back first. This was a challenging movie because it's a movie about essentially a serial killer. It's got oodles of blood, and people are singing almost the entire time. They had a really hard time getting the money to make this movie. After Sam Mendes left, John Logan had been writing the script, and we should talk about him in a little bit because I think he's worth talking about. And Walter F. Parks was on as the producer. They were trying to find somebody else to do it, and I think they latched onto, at some point, they got a hold of Tim Burton, which is great. And through Tim Burton, who had been working with Richard D. Zanuck, he came on board. By the way, I did find, let me just take a side note here. Last time I mentioned I had no idea how Zanuck and Tim Burton came together, and it all happened on Planet of the Apes, the movie from 2001, the remake.
Yeah.
The way that they came together is because Tim Burton, they'd been wanting to make this version of the movie, and Richard Zanuck ended up signing on as a producer because part of it was because he was the guy who was the head of Fox, and he greenlit the original Planet of the Apes back in Fox in 1967.
No kidding.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah. So because of that, he signed on to produce it, and that is where he met Tim Burton and came to create this partnership that lasted until his death.
I'll be damned.
So, but then jumping back into Sweeney Todd, so all of these producers, as skilled as they are, still have a hard time getting the funds that they need to make this movie because nobody thinks it has potential. It's, a bloody musical. And so they I believe it ended up being a partnership between DreamWorks, Warner Brothers, and what was the other studio involved in it? Was it Paramount or 20th Century Fox? I'm trying to find it here. I can't remember.
Oh.
It ended up being 3 studios that put the funds in to get it, and all they gave was $50 million. That's all they had for the budget. So obviously Johnny Depp wasn't getting $75 million for this one.
Well, it was a labor of love.
This is the one where he said, "Okay, I'll do it because I like the story."
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do I get to keep the raises? I would like to keep. Did you throw in the raises?
At last,
I would like them.
Arm is complete.
I am complete.
But so even with all of that and $50 million budget, it did okay at the box office. I see that it was the budget was $50 million. Domestically, it only made just under $53 million. Foreign, it made just under $100 million. So worldwide, about $152 million. So it made its money back. I did see, where did I see that other budget? I had another budget somewhere that had budget at $77 million. So I'm guessing that maybe their advertising and their prints and advertising budget was another $27 million.
Right.
So, I mean, they made their money back. It was a successful film. I don't think it maybe was as successful as they wanted, but it was probably as more successful than they could have hoped for, considering it was a musical about a bloody serial killer.
Well, that's really the thing. I mean, it starts to sound like we're Wall Street analysts. You know what I mean? Like it's oh my goodness. Yeah. It was a failure because it only made twice of its twice the budget and not 3 times the budget. I mean, really, it was a risky story to be told. It was a risky musical to be made. It's a risky property, and they put quality people behind it, and they ended up making an interesting, terrifying, really a cultural statement at the time that was, I think, ended up being a fantastic story.
Yeah, it really was. Really, right. Really great film.
Do you have anything to say about Sacha Baron Cohen?
Other than the fact that I enjoy him in this, I don't really have much more. It's nice seeing him in these different things where he's not over the top, caricatures of people, as he is in all of his own films. But like this and Hugo, I think I enjoy this side of Sacha Baron Cohen more.
Vastly better, because he is a phenomenally talented character actor, I think. And this is the kind of movie, and as you say, Hugo is the kind of movie where you can really see that, and I think I'm glad he has a good time with the dictator, and I sure would like to see him in more of these.
I would too, and hopefully, because he makes some money, I guess, on those sorts of movies, hopefully that's going to kind of push him to take those steps out and do the more challenging things where he's not making as much money or whatever, but he's doing something because it's actually good.
Well, he's got that sort of Andy Kaufman bent. I mean, he likes to do sort of experimental comedy and cultural comedy and challenge comedy, and I think he's very good at it. But I like these movies too, where you get to see him stretch a little bit.
Yep. I agree.
Let's see. So you also wanted to talk about
Timothy Spall. We just have to talk about Timothy.
Yeah.
Spall.
All right. Go ahead.
I mean, he's great in everything he does. And first of all, I think it's hilarious that in this film we've got 3 Harry Potter alum all working together again with Helena Bonham Carter, Alan Rickman, and Timothy Spall.
Well, now wait a minute. I think there's one more. Hold on. You keep talking. I think there's one more.
Yeah, find out who the other one is. But Timothy Spall, I mean, I think I first remember seeing him in Secrets and Lies, Mike Leigh's film from the mid-'90s. Such a powerful film. I just absolutely loved it. I loved him. And everything that he's been in that I've seen since then, he's never disappointed. He's one of those actors that just becomes the character and is not afraid to. I mean, he's not, your typical Hollywood, the Channing Tatum sort of actor. He's a great character actor, and he plays such interesting characters, and I just love him in everything he does. And so I can't get enough of him playing the Beetle in this, and just the way that smarminess that he has. Is he's anything for my friends and neighbors, and just all of that sort of stuff. I mean, he's just he nails this part, and I really enjoy seeing that sliminess coming out of him.
I got it. Anthony. Jamie Campbell Bower was Gellert Grindelwald.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
And he's also in the Twilight films.
Right.
So. Right.
Well
done. Yeah, that's good. Good for him. So Jamie Campbell Bower, I enjoyed him as Anthony. Like I said, I've never seen the musical version of this, but my understanding is there's a good hour cut out of the story in order to fit it into kind of the typical 2-hour film. Mm-hmm. And the big chunk of it is the story between Anthony and Lucy, kind of their love story.
Right. Right. And in this film,
seen it, I don't miss it. I don't feel like
it feels a little bit shoehorned in at the. I mean, I don't necessarily miss it, but it does feel a little bit shoehorned in. Although it all builds up to the big to the Fog Asylum exchange, which I think is just perfect. when he leaves Dr. Fogg to his wards.
Yeah,
is a powerful, horrifying moment.
Yeah, it really is. And then you have Lucy and Joanna.
Yes,
last two critical pieces of this. Joanna is the one part that I always struggle with in this film, and it's such a terrible reason. It's just her eyebrows look like they're like bleached to the point where they're not there, and it kind of creeps me out a little bit.
Are you serious?
Yeah, isn't that sad?
That's gonna be your thing about her.
She's creepy. I mean, she's cute, but she's kind of got this creepy. I mean, if you look at her picture on IMDb, it looks like she probably has brown hair and dyes it blonde, but because she's supposed to have golden hair, it's like they bleached everything to this like white gold color, and it's kind of scary looking.
Wow.
I know.
That's tough. That you're, I think you're probably, there's probably something there that should be worked on.
I'm going to be going to a counselor to get myself through that one.
That's probably important.
Yeah. No, but she does a great job, and I got to tell you, every time I've seen this film, because I completely forget when it builds up to that moment at the end when he discovers her in the trunk.
The forget my face moment?
Well,
or just when he's walking toward her with the blade.
I'm always convinced that he kills her, and I'm always relieved that it doesn't happen. I mean, he's already killed his wife, and I'm just like, oh God, not the kid too. And it's just like, it breaks my heart. And then it's like, oh, at least he lets her live. At least Antony and Joanna will go on with all these horrors. She's gonna have nightmares for the rest of her life.
Yeah, she's gonna need to go back to the asylum. It is interesting that we haven't really talked about the big Romeo and Juliet bit of this film. With those two, and when he discovers that he's killed his wife, and then that moment of awareness at the end when he hears Toby behind him and he tilts his head up. It's funny that it's such a really just an exercise in grotesquerie, but it happens to be one of the most sensitive moments in the film. I think between those two characters when he is bleeding out on his dead wife.
Well, not just bleeding out, but this is a man who's gone so far down this path of revenge where it's just twisted into this this maniacal evil. And it's almost like he's crying, he's sobbing over.
Yep.
But the only way he can cry now is with blood. It's like he doesn't have tears anymore. And the way that that blood drips off his neck is like tears, and it totally breaks my heart in the most awful way. But
totally.
It's a great moment.
It's a great moment.
Yeah. Touching. And the music in that, I mean, again, Johnny Depp, he sings that last song to Lucy right there. And there's just so much heartbreak in it, and just everything about it, it really hits all the right emotional notes.
It is a powerful moment. This is a long show.
Is it?
Yeah. I don't know if you noticed that. We've been talking a long time about this flick.
Well,
it's because I started so early.
It's because you tricked me again.
Yeah.
So,
do you have any other hot items? Let's do the hot items.
What are the hot items?
Your hot list. It's always your hot list, right? Okay. When I'm ready to wrap up, you have a thing.
Yeah. I know. Okay, so this film, it's interesting how things have changed in film over the years, and as far as like the title sequence and how, back in the old days, like something like Compulsion, it had a much longer title sequence, and you really had this, it was kind of a pause where just kind of you have all these titles come on, and then you get back into the story. And a lot of people nowadays have kind of left title sequences behind, and sometimes you'll have the title but nothing else. Sometimes you won't even have the title until the end of the film, and you'll get kind of your title sequence there. This film has a gorgeous title sequence that really starts off the whole notion of what you're about to experience with just this bloodiness, the whole concept of the slashing of the throats and the meat pies and everything, and just blood. Wonderfully designed by Richard Morrison, who's been designing film title sequences for, it looks like here, he's been doing it for over 30 years with more than 150 feature film title sequences to his credit. Some that he's done other than Sweeney Todd, Batman and Brazil, High Fidelity, Vantage Point.
Which,
he's done some amazing title sequences. And this title sequence, I think, we'll put it in the show notes, is, I think, just such a stellar title sequence. I love the whole feel of it all.
Yeah, it's I need to bring it up and watch it again. I don't know why I can't, for some reason, can't place it all of a sudden.
What is emailing it?
No, I got it. I'm bringing it up right now. Because why is it that I can't actually picture the title sequence?
It starts off with just that great toccata and fugue-esque sounding music of the organs. And the rain. And it's the rain, and then the rain is kind of blood dripping, and we go down, and we see it coming on the windows of his Fleet Street barbershop, and we see just the picture on the wall and kind of the rustiness of it, but it's kind of bleeding, and just everything is bleeding. And
oh, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful. And you know why it's wonderful? Because it looks like Rankin Bass, just a complete, just like one of those great holiday specials. It's the who did that? What was the guy? Ralph Bakshi? Bakshi, I think, yeah. Did with the Lord of the Rings. Like it's that sort of tone, that hyper textured animation. Yeah. That is. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I can't believe I didn't have that. It's just great.
And it sets it up so well.
Yep. With the meat, like when you back out the camera, like sort of backs out of the meat grinder and you follow the meat down.
And blood into the drains and just pouring out of.
It's just perfect.
Into the water. Yeah, it's just a stellar title sequence.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh God, I'm watching it right now, and the meat is boiling over with the blood. It's just really,
it's good stuff.
Well done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else you got?
So last thing. Okay. I mentioned I was going to talk about John Logan, who wrote the script for this, which I can only imagine how difficult that is, taking a 3-hour musical and condensing it into a 2-hour film. But he did a fantastic job. But he's written just some stellar films. Hugo, Rango, 2 of my favorite films from last year. He did The Aviator, Last Samurai. He did Gladiator, Any Given Sunday. And he's been around for a while. And he's doing Skyfall. And he's also doing the new Darren Aronofsky movie, Noah. So this is a guy who knows how to write great scripts. And I'm a big fan of him.
God, Any Given Sunday. I actually really like that movie. And of the Next Generation Star Treks, he did Nemesis, which
that's right.
It's no First Contact. It had some trouble, but there were some real.
Does too.
All right.
It's all the bits that
weren't the
the rock and roll like jamming out.
That was problematic. That should I re-edited my copy. It's just all Borg stuff now. It's only about 45 minutes. It's great. But there was some good stuff in Nemesis, some interesting concepts.
And Tom Hardy's in Nemesis.
Yeah, exactly.
It goes from that to Bane.
Man.
Yeah. Good
okay.
Stuff.
All right.
Last thing, and this is, I think, a good way to close out our Richard D. Zanuck series. I keep meaning to talk about this, but I've forgotten in every episode until this one. There's a fantastic book called The Studio by John Gregory Dunn that came out in 1968. He actually got permission to follow like everybody around the 20th Century Fox lot for a full year and chronicle everything that was going on. He got to sit in on all the private meetings and everything. He was sitting in with Zanuck and David Brown and Daryl Zanuck, and just everyone there got to go on all their film sets and everything. And this whole book is all about his year, everything going on there. And coincidentally, he picked the year where they're doing Hello, Dolly, and they're doing Dr. Dolittle, 2 of the films that ended up being the big flops that were the reason that Richard Zanuck ended up getting fired by his father from the company. So he picked an amazing year to kind of accidentally end up being there. And it's an amazing story to really get the life of a studio and what's going on and what sort of conversations people have. So, going back to Richard Zanuck and his story and why we started this whole thing, this is a great book to see what this sort of person does, what a producer is doing, conversations they're having. It's not always about the best creative decisions for the film, because sometimes they're just dealing with, okay, what can we do, like in Driving Miss Daisy, what can we do to get this location? What sort of deal do I have to cut with this person so that we can film here? Okay, here, I'll give you tickets to the premiere and I'll fly you out to Hollywood for it. Those sorts of things. And hearing the stories of people on that side of the line, it's really fascinating. It's an out-of-print book, but you can find it pretty cheap on Amazon. So I definitely recommend anyone who's interested in that sort of thing, I definitely recommend reading it.
Excellent. And who is that by again?
It is by John Gregory Dunne,
All
Dunne.
Fantastic. These out-of-print books that's really annoying. It's just where Google, just finish the thing where you scan everything in the world. Just hurry up. God.
They only have a whole world to catch up on.
Exactly, and get to it. I'm actually looking on Google Books right now, and it seems like they've already scanned it.
Nice.
And so, let's see. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at scanned pages of it. I'm not sure that I can get to the whole book. They don't have the whole book, but I can jump from page 59 to, for example, page 78.
Oh.
So that's something. It's like they're in mid-scan. Like, I feel like if I wait long enough, more pages will fill in. All right. Well, this is, I feel like we may need to do just a little bit of follow-up next week, where we talk a little bit about Zanuck, because we've talked so much about the films that he has produced. But I would love to get your thoughts on as we kind of look back at the whole series. Maybe just 10 minutes. Just talk for 10 minutes. About the kind of what we learned from Zanuck as a producer, because we haven't really talked much about that.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is that fair?
I think we should.
All right. And then
we owe it to the man.
We owe it to the man. And then the movie that we're talking about, we're moving on. After that, we're doing what are we doing next?
Well, now next week is October. So we're jumping into our month of horror.
Have we decided what we're doing first? Like, who goes first? Because this is what we did. The concept was we each brought 2 movies.
Right. I built it completely just chronologically.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we're starting with The Thing. Should I just read them all?
Sure, do it. So The Thing is next week.
And then we're going to do 28 Days Later.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to do Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 version.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to end with The Descent.
You asked me, these are 4 terrific horror movies.
Yeah, I think they're all great.
I'm so glad you didn't bring, because this was the deal. We each brought our 2 favorites, and we'll talk about kind of who's as we do them. But I was worried at one point that after some things you've said in the past, that you were going to bring Saw.
Let's watch Saw 5 and Saw 7. Is that way you'd have to watch all of them?
Is that how it works? I have actually not seen any of the Saw movies.
The first 2, I think, are worth watching. The first one's good. The second one, I think, is only good because it was originally not a Saw movie, and then they wanted to do a sequel, so they took this script and kind of fit it into the Saw series.
Yeah. And
by doing so, it works as a Saw movie, but it also has a kind of a different vibe, which I like. So.
All right. Maybe one day I'll catch up.
Yeah.
I doubt it. All right. We gotta button this up. Anything else you want to say? Do you have any other last things?
I think I've rambled through all of them.
All right. Let's be done. Good talk, Andrew.
Fantastic chat, senor.
Vaya con huevos.
Sí, los pantalones son en el fuego.
We wanted to take a moment to thank you for your continued support over the years. It's hard to believe that we have been having weekly, in-depth discussions about movies since 2011.
That's right, 12 years and counting. Producing this show is a labor of love for us, but it does require a lot of time and effort each week.
If you enjoy our podcast and would love to help keep it going, there are some easy ways you can show your support. One is by using our Originals page to shop for the original source material that movies we've discussed were based on.
That's right. In Season 1 alone, we covered 13 films adapted from books or plays, from Charlie Kaufman's adaptation to David Fincher adaptations like Fight Club.
In Season 2, we covered even more, like Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes and The African Queen from our series about legendary cinematographer Jack Cardiff.
We can't forget about the 4 Jason Bourne movies we talked about. Love those movies. Well, the original trilogy, at least.
For our Richard D. Zanuck series, we did Jaws, Rush, Big Fish, and more. And for our horror series, we talked about John Carpenter's The Thing, which was adapted from Who Goes There?
We did our first great car chase series with movies like Bullet, The French Connection, and Drive. And for the holidays, we did Preston Sturgis's Christmas in July.
We had a great John Huston series with adaptations like The Maltese Falcon and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre.
And for our baseball series, Moneyball with Brad Pitt. Have I told you lately how much I love that movie?
Yeah, I think you have. Plus, our Magician series and Heist film series had adaptations as well.
Tons of page-to-screen gems. Listeners can find the details and links to the original material at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play, or movie you buy through our links helps support the show, and it's no extra cost to you.
So dive in and get your next read today. thenextreel.com/originals has all the films adapted from other sources that not only we have covered, but all of the shows on the Next Reel family of podcasts. Check it out and get reading.
Support the show and build your reading list. It's a win-win. Head to thenextreel.com/originals.